Farrik!
Hello and welcome to Dank Farrik, a Star Wars podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Carlos Gomez, and I'm here with the other host.
Tyler Mendelson.
And today we're going to talk about the pilot for The Bad Batch.
Time out.
What?
Today is also Star Wars Day.
Oh,
So we
that
would
thing.
just say, may the 4th be with you.
Yeah, it feels weird to say it at the beginning. We always say it at the end. But yeah, always. Yeah, of course, May the 4th. So what did you do to celebrate May the 4th, by the way?
So I had work today, but
that's what
just
I
as we
did
were
too.
talking about in our last episode, I am building a Boba Fett cosplay, and it just so happens that my very first piece, which is the helmet, came in the mail from Russia on the night of the 3rd.
From
So I
Russia.
had it for Star Wars Day, and I ended
Holy
up
shit.
bringing it to work and screwing around with my coworkers. And
They let you bring that to work?
I brought it to work, yep, and I
Great.
sat at my desk with the Boba Fett helmet on. But
Oh my God.
yeah, they're like, God, this nerd, what a
Yeah,
loser.
exactly.
I don't care, no shame. And other than that, I just watched some Star Wars stuff, watched The Bad Batch this morning, and here we are.
Yeah, I just listened to John Williams quite a bit during the day, during work.
Mm.
And then I watched The Bad Batch on my phone during lunch hour. But not the ideal way to watch it, but, it did the job.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I assume a lot of people have seen it, that's a lot of people's way to celebrate May the 4th. Of course, that's probably intentional from Lucasfilm. To release The Bad Batch. And if I'm not mistaken, the second episode releases this Friday. So it's going to be every Friday onwards.
Good.
So this was like a special thing because it's the pilot. Um, so yeah, The Bad Batch. So a little history for The Bad Batch. The Bad Batch was around for the last season of the Clone Wars, and they set them up in one of the last arcs, which I always thought was weird that they would introduce a bunch of characters, especially in regards to Echo, who is a character that came back, who was presumed to be dead, a clone who was presumed to be dead like in season 3, and then they brought him back and made him a part of the Bad Batch by the end of that arc, which I always thought it was weird for them to like tease a potential storyline when the show is about to end.
Yeah.
But now I see why. Um, Same thing with they name dropped Saw Gerrera at the end of the Clone Wars, and they also showed Depa Bilaba and Caleb Doom in one of the opening narrations for the Clone Wars. I always thought that was a neat, nod to Rebels, but now I see why they didn't.
It makes complete sense that it showed them. And I got to say, like, I was happy to see, Caleb back. But at the same time, it was just so bizarre and like
Yes.
disturbing because Freddie Prinze, he sounds like a full-grown adult, is exactly as he sounds in Rebels, and he's this little ass teenager.
He's just trying to sound a little bit younger, but it still
He did
sounds the
not.
same.
He needed to do a better job of making like a younger voice, or like the editors should have like, worked with his audio to make him like higher pitched or something, because he sounded like a full-grown adult, and I was not ready to see that. And I think there
Or
was
they
quite
could
a
have
few
just
people
gotten like
talking about it in the discussion.
different actor. I think it would be
I mean, it
easier.
didn't have to be a different actor, but just make it a little bit more high pitched.
Yeah.
He didn't even
But-
try. It was a full-grown
yeah.
adult.
So that's the first thing that pops up. But okay, so going back a little bit, the show starts and we see the Clone Wars logo, like we did in the last couple episodes with the Siege of Mandalore. The red Clone Wars logo. That it didn't have the classic ta-da, but it had like that super serious version of the Clone Wars logo, and then it transforms into the Bad Batch, and then the fucking narration starts like it did in the Clone Wars. And it was fucking sweet because it's like, oh my, we're back in business.
I was just immediately excited. I was just like, all right, let's do this.
And we saw the snippets of Revenge of the Sith in Clone Wars animation form.
Like literally they
awesome.
remade shot for shot some of the scenes from Revenge of the Sith. And, I picked up on it immediately, was like, holy shit, it's really cool to see these exact shots redone in, the animation style.
Yeah, especially General Grievous has like an
Yep.
updated look, even
Yeah.
though he didn't do anything, but he
It
had
was
time
him
to
as in the
abandon
escape
ship.
pod.
Yeah.
Yeah. Time to abandon ship.
But I love that we're dropped right in the middle of the Revenge of the Sith timeline, because it's not even like Clone Wars ends up, I don't know how many years later, with the Vader epilogue, because we already see them stormtroopers. It looks like the Empire. This is still like right in the middle of the Revenge of the Sith
They wanted to
movie.
get right into what the Bad Batch, like what was the moment when Execute Order 66 happened, and how did they respond to it, which I'm
Right,
glad they showed. It didn't just go into Order 66 already happening. Like, we see how they react, and it makes complete sense that their inhibitor chips don't work.
really work. Yeah,
We find
but
out that Crosshairs did a little bit.
yeah, and they Tarkin amplified it. But
Yeah.
the weird thing, like the cool thing to me, is that we actually, for the first time, see what happens immediately after Order 66 from the clones' point of view,
From the clone perspective.
which is really cool, because I always assumed they would be like filled with regret, but I can see that they're all still in that kind of trance where they're buying into what Palpatine's selling,
Yeah.
the whole thing with the Empire. Uh, but so right out of the gate, we see the Caleb Doom and Depa Bilaba relationship, and the I know a lot of fans. I've seen this online where fans are kind of angry. Which I don't know if you know this about Star Wars fans, but they can bitch a lot. Uh, but some people are bitching that there's a Kanan comic that was released like in 2015, which is a really great comic, by the way.
Yeah.
People should check it out. It's like one of the best Star Wars comics in the canon, that tells the story of how Depa Bilaba got shut down by the clones during Order 66, and it's a completely different interpretation of it. Like it's clearly not the same uh, way to tell the story,
Well, that's
and
why, I
yeah,
mean, respect to the comics for, extending the lore and making, light of things that we might not have discussed or have been shown in media. But this is exactly why I don't get into the comics, is that they can immediately just be overwritten to where it's like non-canon. So I like to only focus on things that are canon. I never really got into the expanded universe or anything like
right.
that.
Well, in the EU, it was like that, where it was just overridden all over the place every time. But since Disney had this whole PR thing where everything is the same level of canon now,
Yeah.
that's the frustrating part, because they pretend like it is and then they override it. Which, to be fair, so I like the version of the comics is more emotional. I'll grant that. But I'll like, if Dave Filoni wants to rewrite shit that other creators have done in I don't want to say lesser mediums, because but Star Wars was originated on the screen. To me, anything that
Yeah.
happens on screen overrides anything that happens in publishing,
Agreed.
like the like books or
Yep.
whatever. So the same thing happened with the Siege of Mandalore a little bit with the Ahsoka novel. So
Yeah.
I just get past that, and I'm like, okay. But I thought it was really cool and really clever that they set up Rebels a little bit with that. And
Mhm.
if you watch this in chronological order, as assume like many kids will now, when they watch the Clone Wars, and they will watch the Bad Batch, and then they will watch Rebels. When they get to Rebels, it's gonna mean a
They'll
lot
already
more.
know Kanan and
Yeah,
understand.
because it's gonna, you can actually, like, they talk about this story in Rebels when he says, like, "What's the last thing your master told you?" And he's like, "Run." So
Mhm.
we're actually seeing this, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so clearly, Crosshair is still, he's part of the program. He's like, good soldiers follow
I'm not
orders.
even surprised, honestly. Like, I kind of saw this coming. Crosshair's always been like the standoffish dick of a
Yeah.
character compared to the others. Like, the others are very laid back and chill, and Crosshair's just this cold blooded dick bag. And I don't know. Like, he just always seemed like the one who was going to turn on them if there was going to be one.
Hmm.
So I'm not surprised, but I think it does add to the drama.
Yeah,
The question is, like, is he going to turn good again? And
probably.
I mean, only time will tell, but there's so much to show. We've had one episode so far, and there's just so much story to go forward with.
That's another thing I want to bring up, is we're talking about these characters now as the real people. Like off of the Clone Wars arc, I didn't feel too strongly about the Bad Batch. I thought it was a fine arc. I liked it. I enjoyed it, but I wasn't like particularly attached to the characters. But just like from this pilot alone, I feel like I know them a lot better, and I like them a lot better as individual
100%
characters.
agree. I didn't give two shits about the Bad Batch when the their arc happened in the Clone Wars final season because it was just very repetitive stuff of them running around killing droids, and we didn't really get to see what their characters were like as people, and I couldn't fit in with them. I couldn't find ways to, appreciate them as individuals. But with this, we're immediately shown their personalities on a on a
Yeah,
more depth scale, and
absolutely.
I instantly was enjoying it, like from the get go. Enjoyed the episode
It felt like
100% of
Star
the way.
Wars because even
Yeah,
the humor and the action and the seriousness, everything was like the perfect concoction. I was
it was
really
very, very Dave Filoni, and it just was such an appreciation of all Star Wars, and had such a respect for the story at large. And I'm just completely in it now. Like that was the perfect episode. I'm glad they decided to go with a 70-minute episode to give us time to actually get into it.
yeah. Which I think they're all going to be 30 minutes now from now on, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken, and it's going to be 16 episodes for season one.
16.
Um, yeah. So another thing I want to bring up, which I loved, was the soundtrack. Now, Kevin Kiner, he's done the soundtrack for Clone Wars the whole time and Rebels as well. And John Williams isn't, uh, you know, a good act to follow. Probably a lot of pressure. But there was a
Oh yeah,
theme that he wrote for the Bad Batch back in the Clone Wars that gets reprised here. And you know what I'm talking about? Dun, 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 dun. You know
yeah,
that thing?
yep, yeah.
I thought it was like really good and representative of the like it's gonna be a theme that it's to me it's gonna become iconic like a lot of the Star Wars stuff. Like whenever
Representative Banks.
oh my god, whenever I think about it, I'll probably think of the batch, the sad batch, as one of the clones called them. Do you
That
like
was
that?
funny. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that was a great part of the episode. Now that you brought it up, is we actually see not just them as misfits, but I mean they're basically, even as badass as they are, they're rejected
Yes.
by all the other clones, and
Yes.
it's cool to see that because they're like this elite unit, but just because they are born defective in the sense that they're not like all of the other clones don't like them. So
Right.
not only is that a good setup for post Order 66, where we delve into the Empire, where they're thrust into this position of, do we follow the clones, or do we go
Make our own
find
path.
our own fate, our own
Yeah.
path. But it just because we've only had limited interaction of the Bad Batch with other clones like Rex, we haven't really seen anything of how the other clones perceive them. So to see them on Camino just doing various things like eating at the cafeteria and things like that, we see the clones really don't like them, and they're very unpopular.
Yeah. Another great thing about I'm glad you brought up Camino because a lot of the episode takes place in Camino, and
Yeah.
I've always wondered about Camino and the Caminoans post Order 66 because we know that the clone troopers eventually get phased out, but you can start seeing these like conversations happening where
Yes.
Tarkin is like, I don't know if we need them anymore,
That
and they're
was
like, what do
that
you
was my
mean?
most excited thing about
Yeah,
the premise of the Bad Batch show, is to see how the clones get actually phased out and turned into, what we know as the stormtroopers, with actual humans, just not clones, taking the mantle. But like, I'm excited to see what actually happens with the actual clone troopers.
yes, and I love that they set it up in the pilot because it's clearly going to be like the main, probably one of the main issues of the show.
Yep.
It's going to be the phasing out of the clones. Tarkin looks a little different from his Clone Wars
They're trying
days.
to turn him into the episode 4 Tarkin, which I thought was a
Yes,
good call.
yes, but also I loved, and I didn't pick up on this that they referenced the Citadel arc from the Clone Wars, because of course Tarkin knew Echo, and that was a
Yes.
great. So those little connections where the universe feels so lived in, and they don't miss like a single beat and or opportunity to connect everything.
Yep.
Those are the things that excite me most. Also, like there was this droid, the droid, the medical droid that was in
Yeah.
the fives arc. He was
Yep.
brought back for this, and I was like, I never thought about that, and I was like, that's completely genius. Like you don't
Right.
need to make new shit up that when you can pull from the other stuff, and it feels completely organic.
Yep.
Which makes this feel a lot like Clone Wars season 8. I wonder if the narration is going to continue in the future episodes now that the war's
I
over.
mean, the writing was excellent, the characterization was excellent, and like you were just saying, the animation
Hmm.
was just like, they really didn't miss a beat from the final season of Clone Wars to now. It it just keeps evolving and getting better and better, and it looks so cinematic. And for me, that's such a draw. Like the show Clone Wars started out as such a kiddie thing and became much more serious and dramatic and adult like. And Bad Batch is just completely going in that direction too, where kids can enjoy it, but adults can easily enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I'm just digging it.
Well, to makes a lot of sense to me that Clone Wars started kiddier because, well, Ahsoka, but also as we get closer to Revenge of the Sith, you know, they need to get more fucked up with the story because it's gonna get darker, and you need to get to that place.
And that's also what war does is it
Hmm.
makes men out of young kids essentially.
Yeah,
And as the Clone Wars raged on, Anakin matured and a great deal.
Ahsoka
Even
did
the
as well.
adults did, Obi-Wan and all the others. So to see it just go down this darker and darker path is really cool.
Yeah. Speaking of Ahsoka and the kids and everything, Omega, we get introduced to this kid. Uh, who I still don't understand, to be honest. I don't know what to make of her. We know it's a she now, I think, right? Yeah.
Yep, it's a girl.
And I think she's a clone of Django.
That's exactly what I
She has a Kiwi accent and everything.
I completely got just looking at side by side comparisons of Boba Fett and the other young clones
Hmm.
of Django, looking at them side by side with Omega, you could definitely tell there's very similar features of the face. So I'm just going to assume that that is a Django clone, the only female version that ended up coming out. So she's a defect, just like the Bad Batches. So I think it works perfectly that she fits in with them, and they take her under their wing, especially because she didn't fit in on Camino and she had no home there really, and no
Yeah.
support. So
And they
I
said
think,
the Empire didn't know about her, which was interesting. I
yeah,
think
I
Lama
think the
Su said that. Yeah.
Kaminoans definitely
They're
seemed
shifty
to want to
people.
protect her, and it was cool to see just dialogue scenes between the Kaminoans of how they're processing the Empire. I don't think they wanted it to go down this route, and I think even though they knew about the inhibitor chips and the eventual turn on the Jedi, they thought that they were just going to be used to keep making clones and keep this thing going for years and years. But that clearly wasn't the plan.
Yeah. Um, what do you think about the kid though? Like, do you like her? Is it something that because I know you were reticent that maybe it would be annoying or something like that.
I can say without a doubt, I like the character, and
Hmm.
I don't think she was annoying at all. She was resourceful. She wasn't stupid. She, wasn't annoying. Just a good character, a good introduction, and it was very different. I think Dave Filoni and the writers really learned from, what happened with the Clone Wars and the early introduction of Ahsoka, and like how people didn't like how arrogant and annoying she was, even if it turned into great characterization. I think for an already established world within the Clone Wars type of era, for them to introduce Omega in this way was a lot better of a call to make her instantly likable.
What I wonder is what's her special ability, because if like they all have special things going on. They all have like archetypical abilities? What is hers? I wonder if it's maybe the Force. Is
That
it
would be
something like
crazy.
that?
But actually, that's a very good theory too. But
Mm.
if I
Because
can
it
get
also makes me
so
wonder if it's Django Fett's DNA mixed with someone else's,
that would be very cool. Yeah,
and
like
then somebody
Palpatine.
falls Force sensitive.
Yep, that would be very cool. But I was going to say, my theory is from the trailers, we see her using like a bow and arrow type thing, and she also in the episode saved Hunter's life by taking a very well precise shot. It seems that she's sort of like Crosshair, that she has excellent aim and is very precise with her weapon of choice, whatever she's using.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's in the trailer, so that's probably gonna be in the future. But those that bow and arrow that she's wielding in the trailer, very reminiscent of the Night Sisters
Yep.
weapons. So
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe it's
Do they go
something
to
like that.
Dathomir?
Maybe it's Django Fett dispersed with a little bit of Ventress.
It's Darth Maul's DNA.
Exactly. Mother Talzin.
Yeah.
Dathomir would be sick, by the way. Maul, I think Maul is a must at some point in the show, like maybe
You think he'll
season
show
two.
up?
Yeah, because he was in the Clone Wars. You know, it's in the DNA of the story, and we there's room for him between Clone Wars and Solo, where he there's stuff that could be explored there. Um,
There's a character I would love to see, and this is not going off of my bias. I would love to see Boba Fett because
mhm,
this is the prime time for
makes
him
sense.
entering that bounty hunter era. He gets the armor, and we haven't seen that the there was the how they like made the episode and showed how he got the dent in the helmet.
Yeah, yeah, with Cat Bane.
Yeah. There was the scrapped episode with Cad
Hmm.
Bane. It was like the early drawing uh
Yeah, it was
thing
animatics
of
at that
him
point.
how he gets the dent in his helmet. So
Hmm.
I would love to see that actually shown in an episode fully developed. Sort of like how the Bad Batch was a early scrapped thing before because they just didn't have time to make it.
How about this? So we know in Mando that Boba Fett saves Fennec Shan's life at some point, and she said a line to the effect like, "My life I owe it to Boba Fett." What about Fennec Shan is going to be in this show? What
Yes.
about if Fennec Shan at some point saves Boba Fett, and that way they can do the reversal thing when Boba Fett saves Fennec Shan in the future is because he's paying off that debt that that what I'm saying. That could
Yeah.
be a really cool way to have
They
those
just
two characters interact.
but wouldn't he owe her a life debt then?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just shooting the shit, but just for them to know each other, I think would be a cool connection.
I would definitely
Uh,
like at least some interaction, and they should know who each other are in this
mhm.
universe. Whether, in the time period of the Bad Batch or later on, they definitely learn of each other just because they're both very infamous in the world of scum and villainy.
Yes. Another great character that gets pulled in, of course, is Saw Gerrera. We go to Onderon, um, and we see he's a little bit more loopy in the head. Lies. Uh,
Deception!
exactly. It's
Forbidden!
still the same voice actor from Clone Wars, so it's not Forrest Whitaker. But
Yeah,
we gotta bridge that gap a little bit.
yeah.
So I feel like they're starting to bridge that gap because he's not combing his hair. He has a
I was
scar
just
in his
glad
face.
that he wasn't like abrasive or annoying because
Yeah,
honestly, I've never really liked Saw Gerrera as a character. Never.
not even Rebels.
No.
Wow.
He was
Well,
a dick in
Sakura,
Rebels, dude. He tried
yeah,
to kill the last Geonosian.
yeah, no, of course but he's
He's
that type of
crazy.
character. He's a
Yeah.
crazy character, and he gets
Yeah.
more crazy and extreme as it goes on. I
Yeah.
liked him in Fallen Order though. He was good in that. He was
Yeah.
still an ally then.
I like the premise of his character and why he is
Yeah,
there, like why he is a character. But I don't know. I don't care for him as a character. I don't go, oh
right.
yeah, it's Saw Gerrera. Woo! I'm just like, I don't care
But they constantly bring him up in different stuff, and
because they have to
it
show that radical side of
right.
rebellion. They have to show how the rebellion started and the
True.
different factions.
But what I also like about that, and especially in this show, is that we get to check in with this character like many years, like spanning many years, and he's in a very different place
Yeah.
at different points of the
Yep.
story.
I would agree with that.
Saw also had a bunch of refugees with him, which was
Yeah.
interesting. I saw people thinking like maybe it was Lyra and Galen
Oh,
and
that would have been cool.
little Jin because there was a
Yeah.
little girl there. And I was definitely trying to figure out like I felt like I've seen these characters before, and
You know what?
I thought about
Speaking of
the
that though,
yeah
we're definitely going to see more Saw. So we're
yeah
probably going to get Galen and Lyra and Little Jin.
maybe. Although like if there's a book called Catalyst, and I think at this point, and also in the based on the flashbacks in Rogue One, like Galen Erso is still working for the Empire. Uh, is
Yeah.
still working for the Empire at this point.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a little time until they defect.
Mhm.
Um, but it would be a really cool a way to connect it. I think
Mhm.
to show them or it showed like their friendship starting to show up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I completely agree. Sagar is probably going to be a big deal in this show. Otherwise, they wouldn't have shown him in the freaking pilot.
Big deal.
Yeah. Also, it's a great way to set up the rebellion without actually talking about the rebellion because I love this line where he said like the Clone War is over, but there's a civil war about to begin, and
Yeah.
he's literally like 20 years too early saying that statement. But I
He just
love that
knew.
he's right.
Yeah, he knew.
Yeah, and of course he's lost his sister recently, so there's a whole thing there.
Yeah.
I also wonder if Lux Bonteri will show up because he was supposed he was from Onderon, and his mother was a senator, and he was one of the love interests for Ahsoka. Yeah, and that would be cool to also
Mhm.
get that, and it would be an organic extension from the Clone Wars storytelling.
Right. Obviously, at least for a couple episodes, we're gonna have them on the run and them trying to find their way in the universe. But Crosshair is clearly not going to forget about them. Tarkin isn't going to forget about them, so they're going to be hunted down, and it's going to be a lot of the same format, I think, of the Mandalorian, at least season one, where we get the Mandalorian with Grogu just going to different places and experiencing different things, and everyone trying to capture him. So I think it's going to be a lot of that.
Yeah, and I love
So
that they set up at the end. So they take the kid and they set up that they're going to J17, like Sector J17, and I've read online that that was the sector where that arc in the Clone Wars
they're
when
going.
they
They're going
kidnap
to
it
a
caught.
one clone. What's his name?
Yeah, the clone that the deserter
He
is
has a
the name of
family.
that episode that has a family,
Yeah.
which I always thought it was like a really cool standalone episode. And I
Hmm.
had like I never thought in a million years they would bring it back,
Yeah.
but they are. It seems, and he knows Rex really well. That clone because
Yep.
that was the whole arc was around that.
If
So
you could choose one person or group to be seen in the show, who would it be?
oh fuck. I mean, Ahsoka is kind of a given. I feel like she'll show up at some point.
Yeah, probably with
Um,
Rex.
Probably with Rex. You know who'd be cool?
Who?
Because we've seen in the trailer when Rex shows up, there's been flashes that maybe they're on Braca,
Mhm.
and it'd be cool to see what's his face, the Fallen Order kid,
Yeah,
Cal Kestis.
Cal Kestis.
Cal Kestis is a runaway Jedi.
Yeah,
Maybe the Bad Batch will take up on themselves to save like Padawans from Order 66 because Hunter feels guilty about the whole thing because of the whole Caleb Doom experience, and maybe
yeah,
that becomes their new life mission. That'd be sick.
that would be cool.
So Cal Kestis for me. What's for you?
I want to see the clone commandos from Republic Commando. We got
Oh,
little
and
snippets
yeah,
of them in the Clone Wars, very brief. They
very
didn't
very
really
brief.
have any dialogue or anything.
Hmm.
But I want to actually see them in action, whether they are hunting down the Bad Batch, because they would be an extremely formidable enemy for them,
Yeah,
or maybe their inhibitor chips don't work. Who knows?
yeah. Maybe we see Vader too.
I think Vader
Not too
is a
shabby.
given at some point.
Yeah, I think at some point, like people have to start hearing the rumors of this dark shadow in the galaxy.
Yep.
Because I remember in the Ahsoka novel, she talks about how she's heard about the new Emperor's weapon, and it's Vader.
Yeah. Well, you got to
So he
think the Imperial command like had to be introduced to Vader like, "Yo, this is your new boss, like the one down from the Emperor."
exactly, and
So,
Tarkin is around, so they have a
yeah.
rapport.
Mhm.
They'll meet, they'll kiss, and
Yeah.
everything.
It's going to happen. I just hope James Earl Jones is in it.
Yeah, yeah,
But whatever.
and he doesn't
Overall,
sound too old.
I'm very excited for the rest of the show. Loved the first episode and just can't wait to see more.
Yes. And what do you guys want to see in the Bad Batch?
Yeah.
Who do you want to see? Please let us know. Please celebrate May the 4th safely. Don't do anything too crazy.
Have some blue milk and just chill.
Have some blue milk and chill. And may the force be with you.
May the 4th be with you
Oh, that's right. May the 4th be with you.
always.
Dank Farrik.